Okay, hello and welcome to the first CX Unplugged Commerce Edition. I'm your host, Brent Leary, and this is going to be real cool for the next several Fridays. Well, with the exception of next week because of the Thanksgiving holiday, we're going to be talking about the impact of commerce on modern CX. And like I said, I'm your host, Brent Leary. I'm a CRM industry analyst, and I get the chance to talk to several folks as we talk about what's going on with CX and commerce, particularly leading up to a really interesting holiday season, probably one that we've never seen before. And with me today, the first guest is Nuno Pedro, who is the head of global commerce for SAP. Nuno, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Brent, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to keep this short and sweet. And I love the unplugged, and I know you love the unscripted because there are no scripts for this right here. We're just going to talk about what you're seeing and what we think may happen with commerce in the upcoming year. So to kind of kick things off, I wanted to pop this guy up. This is just a recently finished survey that I've done of about 1,500 folks talking about all different things around CX and digital transformation. But I think the two big points that I would love for you to address from a commerce perspective is 47% of these folks out of the 1,500 said that the pandemic really accelerated their plans for digital transformation. But then an additional 41% said it's not only going to be accelerated, they're going to have significant changes to the way that they were planning on doing digital transformation before the pandemic hit. Mm-hmm. So I would love for you to talk about kind of what do you see? Are you seeing those same kind of things? And maybe talk about how are they changing their digital transformation plans for commerce?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think no one can argue against the fact that we are in the middle of something that no one in their lifetime has seen or was planning to see, right? So I feel like I'm in the middle of a Walking Dead episode, but still in the first series, right, where you don't really know what's happening. But from a commerce perspective, so clearly I see two big movements, right? So the first one is there's definitely an acceleration towards digital commerce. So more and more companies that didn't have it in their radar, now they need to have. Because let's face it, people are using more and more digital means to browse, to buy, and to engage. So the big movement is the shift towards digital has just accelerated. The second shift, and it's a more unfortunate one, is I think the total size of the pie is diminishing a little bit, meaning there's a clear contraction in the economy, there's less consumption, there's money flowing, right? So therefore you see a contraction, and at the same time you see a shift towards digital. Okay, so those two things combined, I think it's perfectly normal that companies nowadays, I mean, they are thinking about how can I change, how do I change my business model to be more oriented towards digital channels, number one. But at the same time, I need to pick my investments very carefully because I know that next year, probably my top line and bottom line are continuing to be affected by this pandemic. Therefore, I need to plan my investments very carefully.
So we're sitting here kind of at the beginning of the second wave of the pandemic. Do you feel like from a commerce perspective, companies are better prepared to handle this second phase than they were to handle the first phase? And how so?
So I do think that the whole world and companies and commerce, think we are all better prepared to take on this second wave that's now very much, I think we are already in the middle of it. So but I think everyone is better prepared. If you focus at commerce companies, I mean, there's this statement that I very much like and believe with, which is, every day nowadays is a Cyber Monday, right? And that's basically because of the amount of demand and the amount of traffic and orders in commerce. It just increased substantially. Therefore, I think companies had to really rethink and look at their infrastructure, look at their fulfillment models, look at their websites, mobile apps, and really be ready for this huge wave. That now it's not happening just one day, 1 week, but it's rather it has been going up over the last few months.
And when you think of kind of some of the direct and immediate changes that came because of the pandemic, I mean, buying stuff online just accelerated right overnight. I mean, people who weren't used to buying groceries, they were used to going to the store to buy groceries, and then they couldn't go to the store, so they had to buy online. Immediate shift for that kind of thing. When you think about the permanency of some of these shifts, do you see, once people get the experience of buying online that maybe didn't want to buy online before, do you see them going back once the pandemic is over to shopping the way they traditionally did? Or do you see a significant part of the people that are saying, you know what, this buying online stuff ain't bad, I think I'm going to keep doing it?
I think we'll see a mix of people that try the experience, like it, and think, why do I want to carry a few gallons of milk for a few blocks? Why can I not order them online? It's not as if the package is very different from week to week, right? So that works perfectly fine. But there will be some other scenarios where you still want to see, feel, maybe taste, maybe smell, right? So I think there will always be a component of the whole buying experience, which is a physical one. But what we will see is definitely that this trend will remain to some extent, right? So there will be people and specific industries where the rise of e-commerce, maybe it will decrease a little bit, but I'm pretty sure that we will continue to see that it's a sustained growth, and that the pandemic has just accelerated that growth. Yeah.
It seems like, some companies, they really weren't prepared. Well, I guess a lot of companies weren't prepared for this thing. It's the first thing in like 100 years for this kind of thing to hit. But a lot of folks who were set up to sell in, physical locations, they had to make this dramatic switch. And now there's an opportunity for those who have started thinking about going direct to consumer, because they had to have consumers buy online and they had to have a better presence. So what can the folks in commerce really do to significantly improve their opportunity to go direct to consumer, to build those direct relationships, and to keep them after the pandemic is finished?
Yeah. So I think the name of the game in the digital world is everything that you do as a consumer is somehow by someone trackable, right? And yes, you have data protection and GDPR and CCPA and all of that, but let's assume for a second that whatever you do in the digital world is trackable. Whereas in the physical world, I mean, if I go in and buy a pair of socks or milk in the grocery shop, I mean, no one knows who I am, what I'm buying. I mean, they try to give you those loyalty cards. Some people use it, some others not, but you're very much unknown, right? I think the big shift is in the digital world, everyone can be more or less known, but there will be data points about you as a consumer. And I do think that brands are realizing more and more that the more I know about my consumers, the better I can, number one, plan my stock and inventory. Number two, design my products and figure out what works, what doesn't. And number three, when it comes to marketing and sales, have better investment decisions, have more compelling value proposition, more compelling promotions, and therefore get more revenue, increase conversion, increase AOV, and so on. So therefore, I do think that again, it's a trend that was already there, right? I think it has the pandemic accelerated the trend, and I do think that brands that will win moving forward are the ones that can master that art of collecting consumer data, understanding consumer data, and activating upon that data that they have.
You mentioned a little bit about the supply chain. Will you talk a little bit more about the impact of supply chain on customer experience? Because now more than ever, it seems that it's not just about being able to quickly find something online and be able to get the recommendation, but I want to know that this thing is going to get to me when you say it's going to get to me, because that's when I need it.
Yeah, I mean, and the fact of the matter is that nowadays people are at home and waiting for their package, right? So they want the package delivered ASAP.
Right.
And I don't know about you guys, but in the beginning of pandemic, I would order stuff in Amazon, and sometimes it would take 1 week or 1 week and a half. And I was not used to that because, I mean, things used to take a few days, and all of a sudden they start taking a few weeks. And that's a pattern which is, I believe, easy to understand because with the increase in volume, I mean, the size of the pie is actually shrinking, but the size of the pie that is now delivered through e-commerce is much bigger. So therefore, I think the world around fulfillment and delivering of the order, it had to radically shift towards being able to deliver smaller volumes, but in a much, much, much bigger number. Okay, and I think that's a shift that I think companies have done that well or are in the process of doing that well. But I also think that from a customer perspective, the expectations are the same. So I want my product as soon as I possibly can, and I don't care about the pandemic or any such thing. So dear companies, deal with it.
One last thing, I find this fascinating. I saw this a recent study of the shopping trends, and most of us are all kind of sitting at home, sheltering in place. We're in front of like as many screens and as many big screens as we could that we can get in front of. But the thing that seems to be really driving the move to online commerce is mobile, having a mobile device. I think it was 55% year over year growth in mobile device transactions. Can you talk to why, even in the midst of a pandemic, we're turning to the smallest things that we have to buy all the stuff that we want?
I mean, I think it's relatively easy to understand because it's so convenient, right? It's in your pocket, it fits well in your hand. And I would just invite everyone to really look at their time report, the time that you spend, and the number of times that you pick up your phone. I mean, I sometimes I look at it and I get scared, right? But the fact of the matter is the shift to mobile and the fact that we are in very much in a mobile first environment, I think that will only further accelerate. I think if you look at the evolution of mobile apps and the UX in mobile, I mean, it's so easy. It's one swipe away, and now you just look at the camera, and all of a sudden it's done. And I think as human beings, I think we are usually kind of lazy, you know. So between just swiping or looking at the phone and one action and you get the purchase versus turning on your laptop and opening the browser and doing all these different things. I mean, I think the convenience is what's allowing mobile to really win.
This has been really fascinating conversation, Nuno. What's the name of your favorite football team again?
I support Sporting Lisbon, so I've been fortunate enough to move over to Lisbon recently. So I was living abroad for a good number of years, but now I'm living right next to the stadium, so I can see it from where I'm standing. It's a beautiful view. Too bad. I mean, they need to do a better job when it comes to the championship and winning games. But this season they are doing well. Yeah.
Hey, my team hasn't won a Super Bowl over here since 1999, so I can't say anything.
You can relate. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Right. But hey, man, this has been a great conversation. I'm glad that you were the first guest for the show. Lots of great information. And I would love to figure out a way to do this again, maybe track and see how some of the things we talked about, how they've progressed over time. Does that make sense to you? Can we do it again sometime?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Brent, and good to be here, and wish you a good day ahead. Okay.
Thank you. And you do the same. And folks, thank you for joining us. And we won't be back next Friday because of the Thanksgiving holiday, but you can see us in 2 weeks. We hope to see you then.